This video is brought to you by Skillshare. More on them later in the video. About a year ago, I did my first set of Transformers videos, the Justice League Transformers episodes, and in that I'm pretty sure I mentioned that at some point I'd have to do an Avengers Transformers episode. And I still haven't done that. But today we are doing Marvel Transformers. Cause see, I wanted to work with some characters that I haven't used as often, partially because the Loki show is going right now and it's really fantastic, so I wanted to work with Loki. So today is more general Marvel Transformers, but if people really dig this, then, you know, I'll be much more likely to do the Avengers Transformers episode soon. So make sure to let me know what you think of this episode. Anyway, that's all I got to say before we start, so let's get into it, shall we? Let's go. Hit like if you want, subscribe if you feel like, but either way, enjoy the show. In the war for Cybertron, villains and heroes have risen and fallen on both sides of the raging conflict. Autobots and Decepticons alike have vast armies with so many powerful and cunning warriors and tacticians that it can be hard to stand out from the crowd. To be a name that when those on your side hear it, they get a surge of energy through their circuits to fight harder and better and stronger, inspired by those great heroes' might. One of these brave warriors, who many Autobots look to as one of the driving forces behind their latest and greatest victories, is a bot who, for a while, hadn't even chosen a side to fight for. Panthos Chal is the king of a hidden and highly advanced state of Cybertron called Wakanex City. Their people weren't as inherently powerful as those from Wondrous Omega's state of Themos or Aquacentron's beings of the Rust Sea, but their technological advancements surpassed that of any other region of the world, which was part of the reason they'd stayed out of the war. They believed their technology and armies could significantly help turn the tide of the war, but the city was too divided on whose side to take. Generally, most civilians agreed with the Autobot mission, but they also believed that the planet had many problems beyond the war, and the raging conflict having a victor, regardless of who won, wouldn't change the planet's real problems. They believed their people could continue to survive and thrive in peace, so long as they remained hidden from the world. But all that changed with the passing of the role of Wakanex's king and protector. Panthos Rexus was the previous king, and had been the teacher of Chal Minor. He was training the young bot to be a good leader and better warrior for the people of their city under the role of Panthos. The role came not only with the leadership of the land, but with enhanced strength and speed, and a royal panther vehicle form only able to be taken on by one being on the planet at a time. And Chal Minor would be thrust into taking on this form before his training was complete. While Panthos Rexus was out in the world trying to give insights to Autobots and Decepticon leaders on how they could find peace between them with less violence, he was assassinated. It had been an event staged to appear as though Autobots had done it, but with some help from some new friends, Chal Minor, now Panthos Chal, would come to find that it had been the Decepticons all along. Chal, now with the role of Panthos of Wakanex, continued his own investigation into the intentions and actions of both sides of the war. He found without a shadow of a doubt that for the good of the world at large, the Decepticons had to be defeated. He came to his people and told them that yes, if they remained hidden away protecting their incredible city and technology, they could likely remain safe from further treachery of the Decepticons, but that for the good of all innocent life on the planet, they had to do their part to stop the more villainous forces of Cybertron. With that, Wakanex came out of the shadows. With Panthos Chal at the lead, their armies went into the battlefield aligned with the Autobots against a common enemy, and helped reclaim some of the hardest held Decepticon regions on the planet. He'd become one of the most revered leaders on the Autobot side, and would inspire great compassion and courage from all, and truly earn his title as Panthos of Wakanex. Taking a quick little pause here to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Skillshare, the only sponsor that I very regularly take on this channel because I've genuinely used it for years and still use it today. I've mentioned how I used it years ago to learn how to draw animals and creatures by taking Jerome Jacobs' course, Drawing Animals from Anatomy to Rendering. I recently learned how to improve my background drawings by taking Digital Art Concept Painting by Siobhan Toomey, and this week I was reminded that they don't just have drawing classes, because I started taking a meditation course on there. I mentioned in a recent video how I've been meditating more and it's been really helping my positivity and specifically my focus, and that in turn has really helped my artwork. But right now I'm taking Modern Meditation, Discover Your Potential, Power, and Purpose by Justin Michael Williams. And I'm really enjoying it. I find when I do a little bit of meditating in the morning before work, it sets my brain up to just be super positive for the rest of the day, and it's really awesome. But along with drawing and meditation, Skillshare has tons of other classes and categories of classes, from animation to graphic design to creative writing, UI design, the list just keeps going on. They're an online learning community with thousands of classes made for creative and curious people just like you. And because they're the sponsor of today's video, the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare, so you can start exploring your creativity today. Super recommend it, but for now, let's get back into some more Transformers drawings, shall we? Let's go. Now, while there are many tales to be told of heroes and villains who fight passionately for one side of the conflict, there are also those who largely fight only for themselves and may even switch sides on a whim if it can get them closer to their ultimate goals. On one of the moons of Cybertron live some of the most powerful Transformers to ever exist, the Asgarons. Their royal family is vast, and while they have their own issues and conflicts and deal with problems across the universe far beyond Cybertron, they also have been known to meddle in the affairs of the planet below. Thundos Deodatus is the next in line for the throne of Asgaron, and he regularly fights alongside a revered faction of Autobots on Cybertron, with a steadfast certainty that the Autobots are the ones who must win the war for the planet. But his brother Locus Mischius is another story altogether. He and Thundos in their younger years would work together in battles on Cybertron, in wars previous to the one currently raging today. But as time passed on and Locus imagined more and more favoritism from his own people towards Thundos, he became more and more jealous of the power and love his brother was growing up to inherit along with the throne. So Locus started secretly taking on occasional missions for the Decepticons, before the war had even begun. If he knew his brother was going on some kind of quest against the Decepticons on the planet, he'd provide them with weapons and insights that could help them kill Thundos. Locus was always able to maintain disguises that kept his identity secret, as he had the ability to transform much faster and into a far more diverse range of forms than any others of his kind, even able to create realistic holographic illusions of himself in various forms to mislead others further. One second he could be his normal green and golden metallic humanoid form, and the next he could be a crimson jet, and then the next a white mechanical beast. Nobody knew he'd been aiding the Decepticons for decades, but once the actual war for Cybertron began, he began manipulating dozens and dozens of events, trying to find a way to have his brother killed at every turn, but he kept failing and failing and failing over and over and over again. Finally, he became fed up after a particularly devious plot, in which he'd sent the Asgaron Death Sentry to try and kill Thundos, and this failed as well. He was sick of the indirect path to his goal and simply attacked his brother himself. Thundos tried to reason with Locus. They were still brothers after all, but it was no use. And over the course of their brawl, it became very clear to Locus that he was never going to defeat his brother on his own. And after all his treachery, he'd never be seen as the king of his own people by simply inheriting the throne if his brother died. So he fled the moon and headed off into space to find himself an army. One with which he could take over not only the moon of Asgaron, but the whole planet of Cybertron. And this time he had no intention of aiding the Decepticons in their goals, nor did he plan on helping the Autobots. He decided to destroy both armies, Autobots and Decepticons alike, and force all who remained to bow to him as the true righteous king of the planet. And after much searching, he'd find the army he sought on Titanium 9, along with the power to kill his brother. But little did he know the alliance he'd have to make to get these forces would be his ultimate undoing. Phantom Omega would not tolerate any of the mischievous Locus's tricks.
Your hands are stained with the energon of the innocent. Your body now joins the primordials of Mephistosurge.
This is a line all too many Decepticons and some few treacherous Autobots have heard before their life force was burnt from their bodies and they were turned into surface world slaves of the tyrant that lives in the planet's core. These cursed words are spoken by a grudging servant of Mephistosurge, a bot who once went by Blazon and now goes by Vengeant. He was once an innocent civilian of Cybertron. He didn't fight in any army as no wars raged in his younger years, and he simply wanted to be an entertainer, to push the limits of what Cybertronians could do with their vehicle forms for crowds of onlookers. His vehicle form was that of a sleek cycle, like that of his mentor, a bot who, unfortunately, wasn't long for this world. A lethal disease of cosmic rust had been slowly deteriorating his body for too long before it had been diagnosed, and now he'd been deemed incurable. Blazon and his mentor had both given up hope, when a red, holographic form appeared before Blazon one night. It was the projection of a demonic bot who told Blazon that his mentor could be cured if Blazon made a deal with this figure. Blazon was skeptical, but was willing to try anything at this point. He was instructed to go off into the Badlands of the planet to find an abandoned temple. There, Blazon put his hands into a rusted slot in the wall that looked like nobody had touched it in centuries. The whole building lit up in red and orange light, and Blazon's hand was locked in place. He tried to pull it out, but it was no use. The temple whirred all around him, and primordial power from the planet's core surged into Blazon's body, changing his form, making his metal more rusted and decay. His head shriveled and burst into glowing orange plasma. When he was finally able to free his hands, he was a totally new being, with incredible power and an unquenchable lust for violence. He could now also hear the figure in his mind, the one that had come to him that he'd made the deal with. He was told that his mentor had been cured, but now in accord, Blazon would spend his nights serving the bidding of Mephistosurge. This being had been locked away in the center of the planet centuries ago with his demonic forces, the Primordials. These were monstrous Transformers with no minds of their own. Their only purpose was to serve Mephistosurge, and Blazon's purpose was now to create more of them. The ones trapped with Mephistosurge in the center of the Earth were of no use to him in meddling with the affairs of the surface world, which was why he'd now given Blazon the power to turn others of his kind into these mindless drones, who bowed only to the whims of their master below. This was a horrible curse Blazon had brought upon himself, and it would only get worse before any silver linings could be seen. You see, the next day when the light of day broke, Blazon returned to his normal form. He went back to his home city to find it in ruins. The war for Cybertron had just begun, and his city was ground zero. He tore through rubble and ducked blaster fire, trying to find his mentor, but by the time he did, it was too late. The bot had been riddled with bullets and crossfire, and all the light of Energon was gone from his eyes. But even through slashes and bullet holes, Blazon could see that his mentor's body indeed was completely free of cosmic rust. Before his unjust end, the bot had been cured of his disease. All this had been for nothing. His mentor had still died, and Blazon was left alone in a now warring world. But instead of letting this curse break him, he decided to use it for good. He would indeed go off in the night in his darker form, Vengeant, but would only use his powers on the most vile and cruel warriors of the Decepticons, and occasionally of the Autobots. And as soon as he converted them into mindless primordials, capable of doing Mephistosurge's bidding on the surface, Vengeant would then use his powers to slay these tools of the devil. His deal had been to spend his nights turning Transformers, but nothing in their agreement had said that he had to let the Primordials live on after they were made. And so his life went on this way, creating then killing the servants of Mephistosurge. Many Autobots would tell tales of this warrior, saving them from torment at the hands of the most vile Decepticons, and he'd gain a tentative heroic status among their ranks. But truthfully, he fought for no side of the war, and only served to hunt the vile and protect the world from whatever Mephistosurge wanted his mindless servants to do. Alright everybody, now you all have to tell me, Avengers as Transformers, is that something I gotta do? Let me know in the comments. Or should I just do another general Marvel Transformers episode? Because obviously if I'm doing Marvel as a whole, there's more characters I can pull from. Maybe some that I don't use as regularly on the channel. And of course, is there other stuff you want to see turned into Transformers? Let me know in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, make sure to check out some of my other Transformers videos. I've got Godzilla monsters as Transformers, as mentioned I've got the Justice League episodes, and I've done a few famous vehicles as Transformers. Oh, and of course I've done Spider-Man villains as Transformers. But anyway everybody, that's all for today. I'm Christian Pearson, this has been Popcast Studios, home of the nerdiest art videos on YouTube. Thank you all so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed yourselves, and I will see you all in the next video, which is finally Multiverse Tales Battle for the Beast World. It's gonna be good. It's also gonna take a long time to finish, but it's gonna be good. I'll see you there. Goodbye.